I am here with Jeff Ponchick, co-founder and CEO of Mogul. Hey Jeff, how's it going?
It's going great. How are you? Thank you for
Doing
having me.
great. Yeah, great to have you. What is Mogul and how does it relate to this topic we have of revenue recovery?
Sure. I would say with Mogul, revenue recovery is the name of the game. So every day in our team meeting, we say, let's make artists money, let's find them money. And the way that we do that is we have built the rocket money of the music industry. So you create a Mogul account, you give us access to your digital distributor, your publisher, your performing rights organization, you link them into Mogul. And then we centralize all your sound recording and publishing data in one view, which shockingly, that hasn't really existed for people in an affordable way until now. And then once we have that royalty centralization around all of your data, we help you find all your missing registrations, royalties across all rights types, and then work with you to repair those issues with your existing partners.
Geez, we literally just had this conversation with Jason from Cosign about all these different revenue streams and how you keep track of it. And you're like, we do that.
Exactly. Yep. There's
Yeah.
yeah, it's in the music industry, there are some companies that will do one or two different rights. But at the end of the day, most artists that we've found have an average of like 7 to 10 different logins to different companies, right? And yeah, there's not really anything pulling it all together. And so while Cosign is a fantastic publishing administrator, right, powered by Cobalt, you still need a performing rights organization, an ASCAP or BMI, you name it, and that's another thing you have to manage on top of working with Cosign. So we bring that all together, and we're really platform agnostic. We just want to help people understand what the heck is going on with the companies they choose to work with.
I'm curious for the revenue that you're tracking, the ways in which you're trying to make artists some money. How much money is at stake, and why do we need technology to help us increase those revenue numbers?
Yeah, hundreds of millions of dollars are at stake, right? And this is a fun topic because I can very easily go into my tin hat theories about why this is the case. But what we've identified at Mogul is that for artists who create accounts and connect their performing rights organization or sound exchange or their publisher or you name it, often in many cases upwards of 50% of artist catalogs are not registered correctly where they should be, right? And so it's a huge I would say hidden problem, which is artists and their teams are simply not doing the data entry required to even set themselves up for the opportunity of getting paid incorrectly. They're just not getting paid at all. And when that happens, when various societies around the world don't have access to the data on who to pay out to, it gets stuck in escrow and it builds up. And there's a time limit on these things. It takes you have about 3 to 5 years from the time that a song is released before you can get that back pay. Anything older than that, it's gone. And so it's a huge problem. Ton of slippage happening in the music industry just because there's so many different things to manage and the data isn't getting to the places that it needs to be.
Well, we used to talk about breakage. Now we talk about slippage.
Yeah. I think that's the right term, slippage,
I,
right? Yeah.
I mean, I think there's a lot of metaphors we could
Yeah.
use for it. So
You're right. Yeah. Yeah.
there's nothing wrong with that term. I just think it's breakage was like physical product actually getting broken,
Mhm.
and now it's sort of like slippage is a little broader because it could be things aren't registered correctly. It could be that splits aren't correct. It could be that someone's just not paying it out because nobody's collected it, or it could be there's a rights dispute. There could be so many things, and I think slippage is a probably the most polite word you can use for
Yes.
all those categories.
Slipping around. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. So, I mean, you kind of mentioned that Mogul kind of reduces some of the data entry or the tracking, that sort of thing. What is the sauce? People like to say secret sauce. I don't know if it's secret, but what is the sauce that Mogul gives operators in the music industry, and who's it for exactly?
Sure. So Mogul is primarily we're direct with musicians and in many cases, music managers. We also work with royalty professionals who may oversee, a lot of different artists' royalties and registrations. And the secret sauce, fantastic question, is we built, if you're familiar with the fintech platform Plaid, we built the Plaid of the music industry. So, and we're one of the only companies that offers this. So when you create a mobile account, you give us your username and password, to the companies that pay you, and we add ourselves as a guest user. So Mogul is sort of a guest user across thousands of different artists, various royalty portals. And so when you think about it, when you go to release a new song, right, you might need to go to Cosign, you might need to go to Sound Exchange, you might need to go to, a number of other, companies and platforms which pay you. We have our own flow where you can just give us the split details once, and instead of having to log into 5 different things and go through different custom forms of data entry, you just do it once and it's done. And I think with Mogul, um, we are, I believe we actually timed it. We're something like 6 to 7 times faster when it comes to actually like when you release a new song, just getting it registered everywhere it should be. So we save people a ton of time by doing that. And then we also back audit the catalog, right? So once we have all of your statement data from all the companies that pay you, and we can see what you have been paid out on, the lack of what, there's a correct way for the royalties to flow. We can also see what you haven't been paid out on. And so that is, can take a lot of time to figure out, if you have especially a large catalog, what hasn't been paid out on correctly. And so, you sort of get this registrations audit. I would say 99% of folks, I would say, use us specifically for that. And we just say, hey, we're not seeing the featured artist share neighboring rights. Looks like we need to add these 10 things to your Sound Exchange account. And we do that cleanup for you. So for us, I would say our secret sauce is we've come up with a somewhat faster, more elegant way of getting the data we need to provide that audit and then register your new music in a faster, more user-friendly way.
Got it. And you said that artists are a primary user, but you also said something like people who are managing royalties for a lot of artists. Is that what you said? Do you mean publishers or publishing administrators, or who is that?
Yeah, so Mogul isn't specifically for publishing administrators or labels yet, although we do have folks who do sign up. They see value in the sort of aggregated data view across, the different royalty types if they're collecting on those types of things. When I say royalty professionals, I'm more referring to managers, also business managers, right? So folks who are responsible for the finances around larger acts. So, and then, yeah, in some cases, we work directly with some songwriters and producers too.
Got it. Okay. So some of these are self-administered artists who are managing their own publishing, and some of them are managers, business managers, etc. And obviously, I'm gonna ask you, like, if you had one tip for these people, what would it be? The first tip, obviously, is to sign up for Mogul. But is there anything else you could offer up as sort of like something complementary to that? What's the one tip you would give them?
The tip is this. I think that anytime an artist or a team member of an artist looks at the business, you're going to make more money, or hopefully you're going to make more money. And I think that a lot of people in the music industry look at the royalties and registrations, and because it's complex, there's a big gap of education around how it works, right? The rules in the US around certain things are different than ex-US, and it's very complicated, that a lot of people are sort of afraid to look at it. And so a big problem that we're trying to solve is just how do we sort of like dispel the myths around what's right and what isn't, and yeah, just give people a place that just gives them the answers to what they need to do. So my advice to musicians, managers would be don't be afraid of it. And this is a part of the job, and obviously give Mogul a try. We try and make it as easy as we can for folks, but yeah, I think my advice would essentially be, the more time you spend looking at the business, the more money you're going to make.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. So, for these artists or artist team members that are managing the royalties, managers or business managers, etc., there must be some that are like the ideal user customer of Mogul. Who would you say in that category would most benefit from reaching out to you at Mogul? Is there a certain time in a career? Is there a certain size of artist? Certain roles within the team, etc.? Who's the ones that benefit most?
Yeah, so I would say at Mogul, I would say our market for sort of the at scale product is certainly probably anyone who makes about 500 to $1,000 a year minimum, maybe. That's sort of when you're at the point where, a low price subscription might make sense to try and optimize your royalties, and we can cover our costs, and it makes sense. Now, that's not to say that, there are some artists who just see value in getting organized. So when their song does take off, hopefully in the future, they're covered. So we work with all artists and managers of all sizes, but I would say that's probably where we're seeing folks seeing the most value. And then, yeah, for larger organizations, management companies, business management companies, we've just seen several instances in which, you'll have a company that might have a small royalty team or a singular royalty person. And, when you're managing, if you go off of what I said earlier, every artist is, let's say, 7 to 10 logins to things that pay out on a portion of the royalties. If you multiply that by 50 or 100 artists, that's really difficult for one person. And so, yeah, we love speaking with, companies and enterprises that, are trying to take stock and understand the royalty picture across their entire roster of clients. And, you can reach out to me about that, and we're happy to chat.
Awesome. Amazing. Jeff Ponchick, Mogul CEO. Thanks for telling us about Mogul. It's great to have you on here. I guess people can go to usemogul.com. That's the spot, right?
That's it. Yep. And thank you for
Amazing.
having me.
Yeah, look forward to seeing you at Music Tectonics in October. Thanks, Jeff.
See you there.